Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome new viewers. And I want to thank each and every one of you who likes and shares and subscribes to my channel, because when you do that, each time you do that, it assists in circulating all of my videos so that it can be reached more and more people, and they then can have the opportunity, just like you have right now, to get their needs met through this personal information for them as well. So thank you. Okay, and this is viewer request, and oh, I've forgotten what number of viewer requests. No, this is the second viewer request for Saturn. And this is going to be Saturn in Taurus, or the second house, because the second house is the natural house of Taurus. All right, and the reason, for those of you who don't know, why I read from the book, any of my readings, and put them on video, is because that gives a second way for each and every one of you. You have first your written copies, and any of you who want written copies of this reading or any reading, leave me an email, send me a comment, and all of my information, my email address is in the drop-down box below every single video of mine. And so when you are able to read it, and then that's one way that gets into your conscious awareness to help solidify, and then this is a second way, by listening to someone else speaking it. It just gets into your conscious more quickly, and it assists in solidifying this into your conscious memory more quickly, so that you can be free from any of this programming. All right, consciously free. Okay, so let's get started. Again, this is Saturn in Taurus and the second house. The second house is traditionally that of acquisition and possessions. From it, one may assess the individual's capacity to earn a livelihood, his attitude toward those things which he defines as security, and the manner in which his income is likely to be derived. This is a fixed and earthly house. Excuse me. Yeah, well, it's earthly too. Earthy house. And the emotional need of a secure foundation is suggested, a desire rather than the outcome of desire. All of the houses connected with the fixed signs appear to have some bearing on one's values, on the desire nature, and on instinctual reactions of a habitual kind. They have little bearing on events or objects. If this group of houses is considered as the reflection of a man's desire nature, it would appear that greater depth of meaning exists in relation to the second house, and that it is not merely the house of possessions. Possessions are merely a simple and tangible form of satisfying desire. The urge to possess something outside oneself and make it a permanent possession appears to be a collective need, whether the desired something is a person, a value, a state of consciousness, or an automobile. It is then the man's possession in a deeper sense than physical ownership, because he values it. It is of worth to him, and therefore it has meaning. That which is desired through the second house only applies to material things if these have value. And although the majority of people at present place the highest value on these things, it has not always been the case, nor will it necessarily continue to be so as the collective consciousness of man develops. The second house may apply as much to relationships as it does to money in the bank, since possession of a valued object is often closely connected with what we define as love. In the end, however, the possession of worth, which is truly a permanent possession, can only be a quality within the individual himself. There is nothing else in life which is permanent and unalterable except those attributes which we term spiritual. Everything else may be lost, destroyed, taken away, or devalued. It seems that the desire for values, not only tangible but mental, emotional, and spiritual as well, is more representative of the second house than possession. It is the definition of value, a nebulous and relative term, which becomes important when planets are located in the second house, for the meaning or expression of each planet then becomes a value. Of all the planets, only Saturn appears to have an exclusive material value. But as we have seen, this is deceptive because his function is to demonstrate the relativity of all tangible values. Through Saturn, everything on the material plane takes on new meaning because it is seen as a symbol for an inner quality or state of being. Security may be defined very differently when viewed in this way. The simplest reading of Saturn in the second house is fear of poverty, and certainly this placement frequently accompanies a childhood spent in want, where the luxuries of material life and sometimes even the necessities are lacking. This is Saturn on his most literal level, where he denies a material quality necessary to the individual's well-being, so that later in life there is a constant need to fill the gap. We have all come into contact with the self-made man who has struggled from the bottom of the heap by his own dogged efforts and has finally succeeded in accumulating some money in the bank, a house, an automobile or two, and other symbols which society has taught him to interpret as security. Saturn, in his most unconscious form, is eminently conventional in these matters, and Saturn in Taurus, as well as in the second house, has a penchant for accepting as values only those which society accepts and therefore makes apparently stable. Yet the self-made man with a second house Saturn is often so frightened of losing what he has so laboriously acquired that he may not be able to fully enjoy what he has. He may be terrified of loss and display the remarkable facility because he thinks about it so much, of attracting loss through his own bad judgment. He is frightened of responsibility, of ownership, because he knows the pain of losing that which he owns. Yet he is compulsively drawn toward collecting more and more. No amount is sufficient in the end to make him feel fully secure. And indeed, he is not fully secure because forces larger than he can overturn his life and leave him bankrupt. He has invested wholly material things with value because he has never had them before and pays the price of trying to make an inner quality tangible. There's another kind of pattern with Saturn in the second house, which outwardly opposite, yet inwardly the same. This is the person who may have been perfectly comfortable as a child on the material plane, yet who is denied a different kind of possession, a sense of inner values and of personal worth. One cannot blame this, or any other characteristic, wholly on the attitude of the parents, however, for the individual has chosen his environment in the first place, and moreover, would not be sensitive to certain values and not others if a similar note were not resonated within his own inner structure. Which means there's no blame to your parents or anyone else, not even to yourself either, because this is what you were given at birth. You were given at birth. And so because these frequencies, this specific Saturnian frequency was coming to you, this energy coming to you when you were born, then in turn you're calling to yourself automatically, because of this energy, this Saturnian energy, different experiences or specific experiences that are energetically what this author is talking about. So it doesn't matter what parent you have, it doesn't matter any of that. You might not even have parents. Maybe, you wouldn't even have to have parents, meaning physically with you right now. Of course you had parents because that's why you were born. But anyway, so again, it's your natal wheel. It's your natal wheel that dictates what experiences. It's each one of our natal wheels that actually dictates what experiences, what types of experiences we will have according to the energies, the planets, and our nodes, our south and north nodes of the moon that are coming to us at that moment of birth. Okay. This kind of individual is often difficult to understand, for some of the most unpleasant Saturnian manifestations may accompany Saturn in Taurus or in the second house. Not because the position is bad, and I want to say not because you are bad either, but because it tends to concur with obvious, tangible characteristics which are not easily hidden. To an unconscious person with this placement, the end often justifies the means, and avarice and greed may be very evident. The inner strength and self-sustenance, which Saturn in his more conscious expression symbolizes here, may be apparently quite absent from the man's temperament, and he may lean heavily on others financially. The apparent opposite of our previously mentioned self-made man, who will often rather starve than owe anybody anything. But these two extremes are the same psychological state, for they both embody fear and the characteristic ambivalence of wanting and needing desperately, yet attempting to reject the desired object. These states are both, in the end, these states are both, in the end, phases of development, however, for either way, the dependency is upon external values rather than inner ones, and Saturn, the taskmaster, will surely, at some point in the life, accompany experiences which teach the individual to shift his level of evaluation. He attracts these experiences himself because it is the desire of the total self to develop a sense of reality about values, which is the intention, on a more esoteric level of a second house Saturn. There is another common manifestation of Saturn in the second house, and this is the individual who has denied all involvement with material things. This is overcompensation at work in a different direction. Like the man with Saturn in the 8th house, another fixed house, which deals fundamentally with values and emotional attitudes, who cloaks his fear of deeper emotional and sexual encounter with a moral or religious reason why it would be sinful to do so. The man with Saturn in the 2nd house frequently considers money as evil. He has a dim awareness of the fact that greed is as much a part of his own psyche as it is of others, but he cannot express tolerance toward his own humanity and therefore becomes intolerant of the apparent greed of others. He is frequently not merely content to be austere in his own lifestyle. Instead, he feels that it is his responsibility to criticize others for not following the same path because he cannot put his guilt to rest, but also cannot confront himself. This is classic unconscious projection of the casebook kind. What we hate in others is unconsciously living within us. And again, you don't know this if this is you specifically. If you can see this in yourself, no guilt, no blame on yourself, because you're here to learn something. And now, by you being able to know this consciously, now you know where it comes from, and now you can do something about it, and you can change it. You can do something different. This is coming from Saturn in your own chart. This pattern of projection is extremely common with Saturn, for he is the dark shadow of the bright, differentiated conscious personality, and he certainly includes some of our nastier and less attractive human qualities. These, however, are qualities which are not inherently evil. They have simply been outgrown or are not part of our conscious plan for development at any given time. It is only our harsh judgment of ourselves, based on other people's morality, that causes us to push these qualities into the unconscious, where they form the shadowy figure of the dweller on the threshold. Psychic energy does not vanish, but simply takes another channel, and with Saturn in it is often that of projection. We do not see others as they are. Rather, we see in certain of their behavior characteristics the reflection of our own negative qualities. The, quote, sinfulness of worldly goods has always been prerogative of the devout adherents of Orthodox Christianity, which has always had a difficult time in reconciling the opposites in a harmonious and constructive way. However, with the advent of a new age and the consequent emergence of new symbols and new burst of growth in spiritual and psychic directions, the old values and concepts of, quote, God, warring with the devil, Lord of matter, have appeared in a curious modern form. These values, which, when put badly and stripped of their glamour, are often of the, quote, if I can't have it, then you shouldn't either variety, are now being coupled with political ideologies which have very little connection with the real distribution of resources and opportunities. It would appear that projection still runs rampant among us, and it is fashionable once again to consider worldly goods as being synonymous with evil. It is no longer fashionable to consider sexual expression in this light because of the advent of psychoanalysis. But we have no similar revelation in the realm of commerce and material wealth. So what that's saying to me, and the author is saying, is that that's nonsense. It's not a sin, specifically for you Saturnian, Taurus people, Saturnian second house people. It is not a sin to have material goods and to be proud of them and to be happy of them and to find value in them and cherish them for yourself. The earthly signs are custodians for many layers of meaning. For when seen from the more esoteric point of view, matter is an expression of spirit which contains in symbolic guise the blueprint for mind, emotion, and the inner purpose for which the vehicle has been created. This is a more ambiguous but possibly more productive way of looking at matter and may be applied to Taurus and the second house. Following this thread is unquestionably like plunging into a labyrinth, for what eventually emerges is that the second house has nothing to do with objects at all. The pearl of great price appears to lie at the heart of the labyrinth, but the persistence of a Taurian is required to reach it. The placement to find this central and unalterable value, whose definition cannot be properly articulated, but whose reality, to the man who has subjectively experienced it, is not to be questioned. Okay. That's all I have for now. So again, any of you who would like a written copy, send me an email. Leave me a comment with your email, and I will do so. Until next time.